All right, so you ready to dive into some of these online comments about music production?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Cool, because we got some fascinating stuff to unpack
Yeah,
here.
definitely.
You sent us those excerpts from online commentary on music production assumptions. And then this other piece called Pasted Text.
Right.
And they both seem to touch on this idea that, like, anytime an artist sounds good, it's automatically assumed they're using autotune.
Yeah, it's interesting because you see that assumption pop up even in genres where like vocal manipulation isn't even the main focus.
Right.
Like, rap music, for example.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like people hear a polished vocal and they instantly jump to, oh, it's autotune, like
Yep.
as if it's some sort of musical crime.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen these kinds of comments online? Like, I feel like we've all been there, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Scrolling through the comments section and then bam,
Totally.
someone's accusing the artist of using autotune.
Mm-hmm.
But is it really that simple?
No, not really. I mean, this kind of points to a potential disconnect, I think, between how people perceive music production and the reality of what actually goes on
Right.
behind the scenes in the studio.
Yeah.
For those who might not know, Autotune is a software that you can use to correct the pitch in vocals.
Uh-huh.
It's a tool like any other tool in music production, but it's often misunderstood.
Yeah, for sure. And that's where it gets really interesting, right? Because the pasted text piece you sent actually calls out some of these commenters as being uneducated.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, like, is there a link between how confident someone is in their online critique
Yeah.
and how much they actually know?
Mhm.
Because sometimes it feels like the less someone knows, the louder they shout about it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good observation, actually.
Right.
Yeah, I think you're right. The online world sometimes creates this environment where it's just easier to make these snap judgments,
Yeah.
without necessarily having the expertise to back them up.
Yeah.
It's like the barrier to entry for criticism is lower online
Right.
than it is maybe in other areas.
Exactly. And the online commentary source touches on this too, right? Like, they suggest that this whole focus on autotune actually reveals a misunderstanding
Yeah.
of how complex music production really is.
Uh-huh.
It's so much more than just tweaking vocals, right?
Oh, absolutely. Music production is like this giant tapestry of different elements.
Okay.
You have the songwriting, the arranging
Right.
instrumentation recording techniques, mixing, mastering. Like
Okay.
each element requires a unique set of skills
Right.
and artistic choices.
So it's like a whole other art form
Yeah, you could say that.
that people aren't even aware of.
Uh-huh.
So to just reduce it all down to that's just autotune is kind of missing the point, isn't it?
For sure.
It's like going to a museum and only looking at a tiny brushstroke
Right.
instead of appreciating the whole painting.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yes, yeah.
Exactly. It's like focusing on this one little detail and missing the bigger picture.
Yeah, and this is where things get really interesting because if we look at the sources, they both hint at this idea that maybe some of this misplaced critique is actually coming from a desire to engage with the music,
Interesting.
even if that engagement is coming from a place of limited understanding.
Okay.
So you're saying it's not necessarily about being mean or malicious,
Right.
but more about just trying to be part of the conversation.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I think some people just want to participate,
Mm-hmm.
even if they don't have all the knowledge or tools to do it effectively.
Yeah, I
Okay.
guess that makes sense. And it brings up a really important question for us to consider, like, how can we encourage more informed
Right.
and constructive dialogue about music online?
That's a big question.
It is a big one, right?
Yeah.
Is it about making music education more accessible, demystifying all these production techniques? Or is it about just cultivating a deeper appreciation for the creative process in general?
I don't know. I think it's probably a combination of all of those things, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think we need to create spaces where people feel comfortable being curious.
Right.
And asking questions and exploring different perspectives.
Right.
Without feeling judged.
Without being shut down.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's something we can all strive for, right?
For sure.
Both as creators and as listeners.
Absolutely.
It's about fostering that kind of open-minded engagement with music, where we can appreciate the artistry and the effort that goes into it, even if we don't fully grasp all the technical details.
Yeah, I think that's a great goal to aim for.
And maybe if we can encourage that kind of approach, we can start to shift the conversation online towards something a little more thoughtful and a little less judgmental.
Yeah, and hopefully help people realize that music production is a lot more complex than they might think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a whole world behind those polished vocals,
Absolutely.
and it's a world worth exploring.
It is.
All right, well, thanks for diving into this with me. It's been really insightful.
No problem. It's fun.
And to all of you listening out there, keep those comments coming, and let's keep the conversation going.